Welcome. We are grateful for those that have already logged on, and we're going to go ahead and begin. And then as others are able to join, they will be able to see these resources. So thank you so much for your time and participation today. My name is Christy Fensel, and I'm a citizen of the Osage Nation and the executive director of the Oklahoma Native Assets Coalition. We are also known as ONAC. And ONAC has a 21-year history of helping Native families and communities to build assets. And part of today is to address some of the asset stripping that is occurring and some ways to try to work on prevention and then to address it if it has already occurred. So just a little bit about today, and then I'll pass it off to our presenter, Kelly Slaughter. So, in ONAC's work, we hear occasionally about issues with identity theft. And that particularly comes up in some of the financial coaching or sometimes in concerns that tribal citizens might have about giving over their personal information, their identifying information. And especially now with this expansion of broadband and more access to devices to be able to participate with online banking and other asset building services, and also with the upcoming holiday season around the corner and more individuals may be doing some online shopping, we thought it would be a good time to co-host this webinar with the Federal Trade Commission. And so we're grateful to the FTC for their interest in working with us on some of these issues. This is definitely their area of expertise. And so today we're going to hear from Kelly Slaughter. She is an identity theft program manager with the FTC, and she's going to share some information just in general about identity theft, but also some ways that we can try to do some prevention. And then if the theft has occurred, how do you report it to the FTC? The FTC continues to try to do outreach in Native communities, and what they are expressing to us is that they need to hear more from constituents, so from you, about where these hot spots are. So there is the chat feature that will be available with this webinar, and they would be really happy to hear what you're seeing in the community as well. So we will go ahead now and turn it over to Kelly. Again, thank you so much for being here today, for all your time and for joining. And we look forward to today's presentation. Kelly?
Thank you, Chrissy. And thank all of you for joining us today. I've had the wonderful opportunity to work with ONAC on multiple occasions over the last 4 years. And this organization has done an awesome job working with tribes and partners to establish asset building initiatives and programs in Native communities. Their mission I'm trying to share my screen at the same time as I'm talking to you. Their mission of creating greater opportunities for economic self-sufficiency of Native families is what brought FTC here today. Because while you're helping someone else learn for themselves, or even if you're learning for yourself, we want to make sure that all of the skills that they're learning with an asset building, scammers are not just taking advantage of the great return that results from learning these skills. And chances are, as Chrissy said, many of you know someone who's experienced identity theft. And I'm quite sure that that's so true that chat back in the chat box with me, to me. Have you heard of someone who's experienced identity theft? Maybe you yourself have experienced identity theft. Feel free to let us know. You don't have to mention any names, but we want to make sure that we're all on the same page throughout. So please chat back. And if you have questions, use the question and answer feature. Today, we're going to cover understanding identity theft and recognizing some of the fraud and identity theft trends that we're seeing. And then we'll share some things that you can do to reduce the chances of identity theft, plus steps to recovery, And of course, we'll cover some FTC resources that are available to each and every one of you. If you were to describe identity theft to someone who didn't know about it, many of us will say it's when someone uses your social security number or when they use your credit or debit card number. We may even say that it's when someone files taxes or applies for government benefits or a new credit card in our name. And if you use any of these scenarios or others that may have come to your mind, when you hear the words identity theft, all of them will be accurate descriptions of what identity theft looks like. Simply put, identity theft happens when a thief uses someone's personal or financial information without their permission. In any form, identity theft can lead to serious problems, including stress, financial loss, legal issues, reputational damage, and then the time and money it takes to recover. I mean, you might get turned down for credit or a loan, public benefits or a job. You might get harassed by debt collectors, not to mention the emotional and psychological harm that comes about. In short, having your identity stolen can really mess up a person's life. So to address this issue, the Federal Trade Commission has created resources to empower people to spot, avoid, and report identity theft. But before I talk about them, let's take a look at what reports tell us about identity theft in the United States. You see, people report identity theft to the FTC. We received 1.4 million identity theft reports, and we recognize, this was in 2021, we recognize that this is only a fraction of the people who experience that identity theft that actually report it to us. An interesting picture emerges when we look at reports by age. This chart shows that identity theft is universal, but also affects age groups differently. There's often a focus on elders or older adults as targets of fraud and identity theft. But here, you can see that folks of all ages are affected, not just older people. Take a look, for example, at the bars at the top of the screen for the 30 to 39-year-olds. The FTC actually collects reports from consumers about a number of consumer protection issues, including identity theft and fraud. The reports are entered into the agency's Consumer Sentinel network. It's a secure database available to law enforcement all over the country. The FTC and other law enforcement agencies use Consumer Sentinel to see where people are running into problems and track their patterns and trends. In some cases, the reports help us to bring law enforcement actions to stop companies that use deceptive business practices. But it also helps us to create resources to address consumer concerns and reduce public harm. So it's very important that people report to FTC if you spot a scam or if you experience identity theft. Every year, the FTC publishes the Consumer Sentinel Data Book, which is a summary of the consumer reports we received from the previous year. This that you're seeing on your screen is a graphic from that book. You can see where FTC received 5.9 million consumer reports in 2021, and identity theft was number one among the top 3 categories of consumer reports it received. It is fairly consistent that identity theft is one of the top 3 categories year after year since 2016. It's actually been in the number 1 category for the last 3 years. The key takeaway here is that identity theft remains a big problem for people in the United States. I'm sure by now that someone in this virtual room is asking how identity theft has specifically impacted the Native American community. Well, that's one of the many reasons we've collaborated with ONAC for this webinar. We want to hear what you're hearing, so please put it in the chat if you're hearing specific instances where Native communities may be facing identity theft. And in response to your question, when people report identity theft to FTC, we only ask them to share details of how their personal information was misused, their age, and if they were active military or a veteran. But remember, we've already determined that identity theft is universal, right? So we'll refer to the latest U.S. Census to analyze this just a little bit more. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the current total population of Native Americans in the United States is over 6.7 million, with about 574 federally recognized Native American tribes in the U.S. The 2020 U.S. Census ranked Alaska as having the highest population of Native Americans, followed by Oklahoma, New Mexico, South Dakota, and Montana. I pulled the FTC identity theft report stats from these top 5 states just on yesterday. And with the exception of Oklahoma, identity theft was ranked second highest category of fraud for each of these states. For Oklahoma, it is the number 1 category, which is consistent with what we're seeing across the nation. In 2021, scams accounted for about $6.1 billion in losses. And the consistent rise in identity theft, it makes it even more important than ever for us to help people to avoid financial loss and identity theft. The recent growth in the technology use in the Native communities has made this portion of our presentation today even more important too. Let's talk about the trends and multiple tribal members have expressed concern about. And not surprisingly, they're really some of the same ones that are plaguing most of the people across the nation. Based on reports to the Federal Trade Commission, one of the more common ways that people may have their identity stolen is by way of imposter scams. In fact, imposter scams have remained the most common type of fraud reported to FTC for every age group and community. In 2021, we received almost 1 million reports about imposter scams, whether they were fake government agents, pretend grandkids, bogus sweethearts, and others who took almost $2.3 billion from people across the country. And while I was at the Santa Fe Indian Market this year, this was the topic that most visitors to our table complained about. Frankly, I bet that almost everyone in this virtual room has received an IRS or a Social Security imposter scam call. That's when the scammer calls, pretending to be a government agent. They may call, text, email, or instant message you demanding your personal information, your money, or both. They might give you an employee number so they can sound official. And they might have information about you, like your name or your home address. Often during these calls, scammers may threaten you with a lawsuit or arrest if you don't pay a supposed debt. You can be assured it is a scammer contacting you when someone claims to be with the federal government agency and contacts you out of the blue via instant message. Scammers do that, not the government. And the IRS does not initiate contact by email. But there are times when how a scammer initiates contact is not necessarily the red flag. The red flag is often in the details that follow. The bottom line is, though, government agencies won't call, email, or text asking for money or personal information or making threats if you don't share that personal information. Only a scammer would do that. The federal government will never demand payment right away, and they simply won't. And we can't take payment by gift card or money or wire transfer or cryptocurrency. And the federal government will never ask for a credit card number over the phone. So if someone calls saying they're from the federal government and they ask for your credit card number, that's a red flag. The government will also never call and threaten deportation, loss of license, or arrest. Cell phone usage is increasing in Native communities. With so many newcomers to the world of technology, it is important for people to know that these behaviors to recognize that these behaviors are not that of a real phone call from a government agency. Scammers say they're with the government to induce trust or fear, or both. They may even pose as a representative from another popular company that people are familiar with. In fact, just this morning, the FTC released a blog post about us receiving thousands of reports from people saying that scammers called, claiming to be from Spectrum, asking for their personal information, and promising monthly discounts for their services if they prepay their bills by prepaid gift card. Well, based on what we just discussed, that prepaid gift card should be the red flag that you recognized right off the bat. So when the government calls, or even one of these other scammers pretending to be other companies, and they're asking for your money or personal information, the best thing to do is to hang up immediately. Your caller ID might show a government agency's real phone number, and it may even say Social Security Administration, for example. But caller ID can be faked. It can be anyone calling from anywhere in the world. So do not trust your caller ID. If you think the call or message could be real, still hang up the phone. Then call the government agency directly at a number you know to be correct. Do not call the number that they left in your voicemail. Instead, type the agency name into your search engine and click on their .gov webpage to find their contact information. You also never want to give financial or other personal information to someone who calls, texts, or emails and says they're with the federal government or with any government entity. Don't wire them money or use gift cards or cryptocurrency, and never pay cash. Once you pay in these ways, it's almost impossible to get your money back. And essentially, the scammers will take your money and disappear. Whether you paid money or not, please report these calls, texts, emails, and direct messages to the Federal Trade Commission at reportfraud.ftc.gov. Oh, and one more thing. Don't be surprised by this, but scammers will change their stories to catch you off guard. So sometimes they may claim that they have lottery winnings and you need to pay taxes or other fees. Just be aware that they will change hats and try to trick you on any level to get your personal information or your money. So dating back to at least 2016, people reporting their credit card or debit card was used without their permission has been the most reported type of identity theft, with the exception of 2020 and 2021, when we saw a dramatic increase in government benefits fraud. Credit card theft can happen in a variety of ways, including those imposter scams we just finished discussing. Thieves will dig through garbage for documents with personal identifying information, or they'll look for discarded pre-approved credit card offers that they will use in order to apply for new fraudulent credit cards. Then the information could be exposed by a data breach or even dishonest service people. The list goes on and on. And when it comes down to it, there's an opportunity for your credit card information to be exposed every time you use it, especially during the holidays when people are using their credit and debit cards more often online and in person. You cannot always prevent it from happening, but you can create some obstacles to make it a little tougher for someone to get a hold of your numbers. So the best rule of thumb is to pay by credit card, especially when shopping online. Using a credit card instead of the debit card adds some more protections if something goes wrong. Credit card transactions can essentially be halted and reversed at any time, so use a credit card whenever possible. Criminals frequently install devices on ATMs that aren't located in overly busy locations since they don't want to be observed, installing the malicious hardware or collecting the harvested data, although there are always a few exceptions. Therefore, it is not surprising that ATMs in secluded vestibules or even outdoors, like at a fuel pump, are easy targets. So going inside of the bank to use the ATM or inside the gas station to pay the cashier may help you avoid this. But when those options are not available, be sure to investigate the card reader before you use it. Look for any foreign or protruding objects. And whenever you enter a debit card PIN, always assume someone is looking. Maybe it's over the shoulder. It could be through a hidden camera. Even if the ATM or payment machine seems otherwise fine, cover it with your hand as you enter your PIN. Obtaining the PIN number is essential. Without it, criminals are limited to what they can do with your stolen data. And then You want to make sure that you're watching your statements. Watching your statements is key to detecting identity theft. If you notice any unfamiliar charges, go to identitytheft.gov for step-by-step guidance on how to address the transactions. And we'll talk about a bit more about that website in just a few minutes. You want to make sure to never, ever email financial information. Only a scammer would ask you to do so. Businesses needing financial information will have a secure method by which you can share information with them. And just remember that email is not secure. And then if you experience credit card fraud, please let us know by reporting the incident to reportfraud.ftc.gov. All right, so we've learned about a couple of the top scams and how to avoid them. Now let's talk a bit about some additional things that you can do to reduce the risk of identity theft. And you're probably doing a lot of these already, but if not, there are easy changes to make to protect yourself. First of all, don't carry your Social Security card in your wallet. Keep it somewhere very safe at home. Don't write your Social Security number on a check. Don't give it out. Don't give it out unless it's absolutely necessary. If someone asks you for it, say like in a doctor's office, find out why they need it before you share it. And then, you might find out that they don't need it. See if there's an alternative way of verification you can use instead of using that Social Security number. And people are very trusting at times with their identification. I mentioned that I was at the Indian market in August, and I actually had one person walk up and said, "Yes, I know about identity theft. Some people want my CDIB card," and he holds it up to show me the card. There was no reason for me to see it, no reason for me to know that he had it on him. At the end of the day, we must make sure that people keep those items secure. As well, we want to remind them, don't carry all of your credit cards with you. Lock them up at home and only carry the card you need when you're out shopping, especially during the holiday season. Shred anything that has an account number on it, your Social Security number on it, before you throw it away. Make sure it's shredded. Remember that we just talked about government imposters? Again, that actually applies to anyone who contacts you out of the blue. Just don't share your personal information with them or your account numbers with anyone who contacts you. Keep personal information in a secure place at home, especially if you have roommates, overnight guests, outside help, or if you're having work done at the house. You might even consider a lockbox for sensitive documents and things like checkbooks and those extra credit cards. And then you want to make sure that you get your mail as soon as you can. Watch out for unexplained bills or bills that might be missing. Keep a close eye on all of your accounts and financial statements. That's one of the best ways to discover identity theft. Spotting charges for things you didn't buy. It's a great idea to watch your credit reports with all 3 national credit bureaus, and you can get your credit report for free at annualcreditreport.com now through December 23rd, every single week. We'll talk about that more in just a moment. You might also want to consider a credit freeze, which I'll talk about as well. A credit freeze can help you stop identity thieves cold. So when you're online, there are also some easy steps that you can do to protect your information. For starters, use strong passwords. That's a combination of numbers, letters, upper and lowercase letters and symbols. Passwords with your mom's maiden name or your kid's birthday or the last 4 digits of your Social Security number are not strong passwords. And do not use the same password for different accounts. That way, if a hacker happens to get your password, they're not able to get into your other accounts using that same password. Use multi-factor authentication when it's an option, particularly for your financial accounts, your email, and social media accounts. When you sign up for multi-factor authentication, that means that companies require something in addition to your password in order to log into your account. And that could be a passcode that's sent through the app or text, could be a scan of your face or something else. That way, if a hacker gets your password, somehow they can't get into your account with the password alone. You want to make sure to keep your antivirus software up to date In fact, if you can, set it to update automatically. You want it updated as soon as the newer version comes out so that you can have critical patches and protections against security threats. The same goes for your operating system. Be sure to have the latest version, which will have the protections against the latest threats. And then never ever click on links and emails, texts, or social media messages, especially if the sender is not someone you know. If you wonder about it, type the information into your web browser and search. Don't click on the link in the message. Now, we know that many of you may be traveling to border towns in order to use library computers for a number of things. And if you're shopping or paying for something or sharing sensitive information online, again, be sure to cover up your entries from wandering eyes that may be around you. Also, you want to look at the top of the in the URL bar to make sure that the URL starts with HTTPS or that you're seeing a lock there. That means that your transaction is encrypted. But just remember that a site can still be encrypted, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's on the up and up. Sketchy sites can encrypt information too. So you want to be absolutely sure of who you're working with and what you're looking at. Check out the business before you do business with them. All right, one of the most important steps you can take to protect yourself against identity theft is to monitor your credit reports from all 3 credit bureaus. By law, each one of the 3 nationwide credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, have to give you a free copy of your credit report. As I mentioned, normally you can get a copy once a year for free, but because of the pandemic, you can now get a free report from each of the 3 credit bureaus each week from now through December 2023. To order your free credit reports online, go to annualcreditreport.com. Each credit bureau might have slightly different information, so it's worth checking your credit report at all 3. When you get your report, which summarizes your credit history, check for signs of identity theft. That would include things like an incorrect name or an address or social security number. You want to look for accounts you don't recognize. Check the balances or amounts owed on those accounts that you do recognize to make sure that they are correct. A lot of credit inquiries from companies you didn't contact may mean that someone could be shopping for credit in your name. And while any of these could simply be a mistake, it could also be a warning for identity theft. So once you've reviewed your reports, if you find anything that doesn't match, you want to fix those. You can learn more on how to dispute errors to your credit report at ftc.gov/credit. But if you think that you've actually spotted identity theft, go straight to identitytheft.gov, where you can report it and get a personalized recovery plan. More on that in just a moment. Another important proactive way to protect against identity theft is to place a fraud alert or credit freeze on your credit. Fraud alerts and credit freezes can be used to help you avoid and to recover from identity theft. They sound alike, but they work in different ways. A fraud alert tells businesses to check with you before opening a new account in your name. It usually means calling you first to make sure that the person trying to open a new account is really you. Unlike a credit freeze, a fraud alert doesn't limit your access to your credit report. Place a fraud alert by contacting any one of the 3 national credit bureaus. That one credit bureau must notify the other 2. A fraud alert is free. It lasts for 1 year, and you can renew it. If you've experienced identity theft, you can get an extended fraud alert that lasts for 7 years. A credit freeze, on the other hand, is the best way to protect against an identity thief opening new accounts in your name. A credit freeze means that potential creditors cannot access your credit report. And because creditors usually will not give credit if they can't check your credit report, that means the freeze blocks identity thieves who might be trying to open new accounts in your name. It's free to place with each of the 3 credit bureaus. It's free to remove it, and it does not expire. You can place a credit freeze even if you have not experienced identity theft. You can also place it for incapacitated adults and for children. A credit freeze also helps you if you've experienced identity theft or if you've had your information exposed in a data breach. And don't let the freeze part worry you. A credit freeze won't affect your credit score or your ability to use your existing credit cards, apply for a job or an apartment, or even to get insurance. If you need to apply for new credit, you can lift the freeze temporarily to let the creditor check your credit. That's free, but you'll have to just contact whichever credit bureau needs to lift it and then put it back once you've done applying for your credit. To find contact information for the credit bureaus, you can go to identitytheft.gov/credit bureau contacts. Your personal situation will determine which one of these is right for you. But if you want to think about a credit freeze, you definitely want to think about a credit freeze if your social security number or other information has been exposed in a data breach or misused by an identity thief. And for anyone else, a credit freeze might just give you that extra peace of mind. All right, you've heard me mention identitytheft.gov multiple times already, because sometimes even when people take steps to reduce the risk of identity theft, it can still happen. The FTC's website, identitytheft.gov, is here to help with recovery. Identitytheft.gov is an interactive site based on the idea that recovering from identity theft is easier with a plan. And in a nutshell, that's what identitytheft.gov does. It gives you a plan with step-by-step guidance to recover from identity theft. Sorry, it's easy to report. You just simply click the Get Started button there and then follow the prompts. You'll put in details of how your identity was stolen or misused, and then the site uses that information to create the customized tools you need to recover. Identitytheft.gov is available in both English and in Spanish. It is the government's one-stop shop and offers recovery plans for more than 30 types of identity theft. Your individual recovery plan streamlines what can be a confusing, complex process. Now, it's still work, but you actually have a playbook to guide you every step of the way with using this. Identitytheft.gov also streamlines the reporting process if you experience tax identity theft. Thanks to a joint initiative between FTC and IRS, you can use identitytheft.gov to report tax identity theft directly to the IRS. In fact, it is the only way to file an IRS identity theft affidavit online. And more importantly, it speeds up the process for the IRS to start resolving your tax identity case. Identitytheft.gov gives you a very important piece of your recovery. That's an identity theft report. You can use it instead of a police report in many cases and can send it to credit bureaus to prove identity theft. These reports are also made available to law enforcement nationwide through the Consumer Sentinel Network to help law enforcement agencies in their investigations. And then even after you have your identity theft report, there's still more. You can create an account to track your progress navigating through recovery. Once you have created your account, you can see your personalized recovery plan. Each of these lines accordions out to offer detailed advice about how to carry out each step. It includes links to credit bureaus and others that you might need to contact. Your personalized recovery plan comes with a checklist, some follow-up reminders, as well as pre-filled letters and forms you'll need to file. As you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, the system even reminds you that you submitted that IRS identity theft affidavit, and it gives you the date that it was submitted. You can create a secure personal account so that you can return to the website at any time to update your plan, track your recovery progress, or to get customized letters that you need to send to credit agencies, debt collectors, or businesses to help resolve their identity theft that you may not know immediately. You may find out a little later. Of course, you can get this recovery plan without an account, but you get the full benefit of the website when you do create an account. All right, we know that you have a great source in the Journey to Financial Empowerment workbook from the First Nations Development Institute that you use to encourage people to think about ways to protect themselves from financial fraud. Well, the FTC offers some resources that can also help you drive that point home. You can use them in conjunction with the workbook as a supplement or instead of the workbook. The choice is up to you. So I've told you about one of the great resources the FTC has in identitytheft.gov. The second is consumer.gov. It is a government website that helps to teach others to manage their money wisely. They could teach them how to use credit and loans carefully. And it helps you to learn to protect your identity and money because, as we just discussed, what good does it do for us to equip people with great money management skills only to have them leave without the knowledge on how to protect themselves from fraud and identity theft? This website and all of the materials are available in English and in Spanish. Notice the categories at the top of the page. I selected money management, managing your money to get to this page. You'll notice that it lists topics that are pertinent for financial literacy, such as making a budget, opening a bank account, or buying a car. When you click on the green tab for credit, loans, and debt, you'll find materials such as information about payday loans or using credit and understanding credit history. And then the orange tab, will give you more information on topics such as avoiding identity theft, recovering from identity theft, and job scams. In essence, at consumer.gov, you can get resources to aid you in learning how to budget and purchase necessities such as an apartment or a car. There are resources to guide people to building a good credit history and information about how to protect their identities. This is what you will see when you select making a budget, which is under managing your money tab. Each of the listed topics will give you information explaining what it is, what to know, and what to do. These materials are short and to the point. And then when you click on the toolbox, the blue button on the upper right-hand side, it is the instructor's dream come true. You'll find ready-made lesson plans, presentations, worksheets, audio read-alongs, videos, and activity sheets covering all of the topics listed under those 3 tabs. You can print and distribute all of the printable material, and you can put your logo on it without having permission. If your printing budget is a little tight, just order the print materials in bulk. While consumer.gov and identitytheft.gov are the 2 great resources that I thought you would benefit from knowing about, I also want to make you aware of some other resources that are available to protect you and to keep you in the know and that you can share with others. Telemarketing robocalls are more than just annoying, they are illegal. The FTC has sued operations selling medical alert and home security systems, auto warranties, free vacations, to eliminate robocalls from legitimate businesses that want to comply with the law. Register all of your phone numbers, your landlines and your cell phones at donotcall.gov. Now, unfortunately, this is not an end all for robocalls made to your phones. There are scammers who will use the same technology to reach out to you. And spoiler alert, they don't care about the law. They ignore the do not call list. This is when you want to use your call blocking technology built into your cell phones. When you get a suspicious text message, you can now forward those to 7726. You'll get a text response from your phone carrier asking for the phone number. You enter the phone number from which the text message came from, then delete the message. Some cell phones actually allow you to block text messages automatically too, so that's always an option. Just make sure that you do not click any links. I don't answer unknown phone calls, but you may choose to do differently. If you find that it's a scammer on the other end of the line, just hang up immediately, block the number, and don't forget to tell us about it at reportfraud.ftc.gov. As the number of reports demonstrate, identity theft impacts millions of people each year. So the chances are good that someone you know might be affected. By sharing what you learned today, you can help someone to take the steps to avoid identity theft or recover if it comes to that. We have free resources that you can download or order, and you can share them with friends, family members, and in your community. They're available from FTC at ftc.gov/bulk order. And even delivery is free. You can see two of the many free booklets that we have on identity theft here. And if there's an older person in your life, think about ordering materials from our Pass It On campaign. There's information on identity theft, IRS imposters, family emergency scams, and lots of other topics for active older adults. These materials are short and to the point and encourage older adults to share what they know. Please use these and share these resources freely. There's no need to ask for permission to share, to translate them into other languages, or to copy the advice into your own newsletter and put your byline on it, or put your organization sticker on the handout. Just give yourself about 4 weeks for delivery if you choose to go ahead and order them by bulk order. Another great resource that will help you to learn more about avoiding identity theft and all the other scams you might run across. Visit consumer.ftc.gov and please share this website with others. You'll find everything from romance scams and business opportunity fraud to getting your free credit report and how to block those unwanted calls. And to keep up to date with the latest scams and what FTC is doing, please sign up for our consumer alerts. You'll get a couple of blog posts per week sent directly to your inbox so you can stay in the know and share what you learned with others. You can sign up for those at ftc.gov/consumer alerts. All right, and I've mentioned a few times that reporting scams is so important, and we have an easy way that you can do it. We want to know about scams, frauds, and bad business practices at reportfraud.ftc.gov. When you go there, you just tell us what happened. After you answer a few questions and submit your report, you'll get a report number. That lets you update us as far as if anything changes with your report. But importantly, you'll also get some next steps to take. By reporting scams, frauds, and bad business practices, you're helping the FTC and other law enforcement partners build cases to stop scams and also alert others in our communities about current fraud trends. Every report makes a difference. And we have one more last resource that is always available to you, and that is us. We are available to you when you have an event, or if you want to have us to come virtually to visit that event, to talk to you about scams, to talk to you about identity theft, or any other consumer protection matters that of concern for you and your audience. We are happy to come and collaborate with you, just as we have had the opportunity to do so with ONAC. Just reach out to us and contact us, and we can make the arrangements to send someone there. No, we do not charge for us to come and speak to your audience, and we're always happy to do so. These resources are available to you for free. And there's so many more things that I could tell you about that is happening in the marketplace. It's very important for people to know as you're training them about in financial literacy. It would take a few days for us to cover everything, but I want to allow you some time to get your questions answered, which I'm hoping that you put some in the Q&A box so that we'll be able to share the answers with everyone. And I want to allow you the opportunity to let us know if there's something of particular concern in your community. Otherwise, we hope that you will reach out and use these resources that we've made available to you and to Native communities and communities all across the nation. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Chrissy while we check in on those questions.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Kelly. Really appreciate you sharing all that information. And, ONAC's very pleased to be able to partner with FTC on this particular webinar, but on other similar kind of frauds and scam prevention work as well. And, when I just do a quick scan of the participants here, we have Native financial educators and those that are also, doing similar work through universities, particularly with Native students. We have a Native volunteer income tax assistant, site coordinators that are participating today, bankers and lenders, including directors of several Native CDFIs, also those from tribal treasury departments. So, the information that you all receive here, if you wish to spread it to those that you're serving, you have a very wide audience and kind of megaphone that way. So we, just wanted to try to get the word out about these FTC resources if helpful. And so if any of you have feedback, you're welcome to share it today or to contact the FTC afterwards. And I think Kelly, maybe on that earlier slide, you had your contact information.
I do. I can put that back up for you. Just one moment.
Okay, thank you. And so, also, if I believe that this is being recorded, and so we will try to be able to distribute this afterwards and the slides if people need those, because they're packed with information. So if you're seeing things, it'd be helpful just so the FTC can continue to know where the hotspots are, particularly in Native communities. And so we'll give just a few minutes here in case anyone has anything that they wanted to share. And we'll check the chat feature.
I'd also like to point out that we have one of my colleagues here, Rosario Mendez. She's with our Division of Consumer and Business Education. They are the ones who print all those lovely materials that I told you about. They put out the awesome blogs that we see that are coming into the emails that I'm hoping that you'll sign up for. But she's been quite helpful today in making sure that you have those links in the chat. So if you scroll back and make sure that you jot those down and take advantage of those, they're great resources. Thank you again, Rosario, for helping us out with this.
Thank you. Okay, well, we'll leave this up for just a few more minutes. Also, related to this, I think probably the ONAC program that has the most overlap would be the free financial coaching. So, if you have tribal citizens that you're working with that are in need of free financial coaching, and they also, as part of this are interested in building and repairing credit, we're available to work nationwide on that with American Indians and Alaska Natives, regardless of where they reside, by phone and teleconference. And we can address some of these pieces as well, one-on-one. Obviously, they should report to the FTC, and FTC has numerous resources to assist, but also just in terms of trying to, repair some credit. We're available to work on that as well. So I don't see any other pieces in chat. Do you, Kelly?
Well, I'm seeing that someone is saying the chat feature seems to be disabled. I'm not sure what's happening there. Media team, are they able to ask their question out loud?
Yes, they should be able to, or they can put the question in the Q&A. The Q&A should be working.
Okay. Yes. It's up to you. I'm not going to call your name just in case you don't want your want to be known. You want to remain anonymous. Feel free to either put it in the Q&A or we're going to let you unmute and you can ask your question. We're happy to answer it.
Kelly, they asked.
Yes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, they asked about the slides. Go ahead.
Yes, the program is being recorded today, and it will be. Are you putting this on ONAC's website, Chrissy?
Yes, we will. And we potentially also may just send it out through the email distribution list afterwards as well.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for attending. I really appreciate that. It's great information for you to not only just have for yourself, but definitely share it. Thank you.
Okay, well, we know everyone, has a lot going on these days, so we'll probably go ahead and wrap this up. But again, you have Kelly's information if you wish to speak more specifically with a staff member from FTC, and then there's, as she mentioned, all the other formal ways to be able to report. So thank you very much for your participation and all your work in Native communities, and we hope you have a great rest of the day. Thank you.